Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Tonight I wanted to talk to you about the latest developments and reports regarding the ceasefire and what Israel is trying to achieve in the last days of these negotiations and their attempts to extract more from the Palestinian side before having any potential deal, alongside who will be likely released from the Palestinian side, because it appears to be that we are looking at a very large prisoner exchange between Israel and the Palestinian side if this all goes ahead. The other thing that I wanted to talk to you about is Iran. Iran has been silent about their pending response for the Israeli attack on Iran on the 26th of October. Iran conducted 2 attacks on Israel in the past year, one in April and one on the 1st of October, labeled True Promise 1 and True Promise 2, and they promised Israel with a very large blow in True Promise 3. However, in recent weeks, we haven't heard a lot, but now we have more statements coming from the IRGC and from the Supreme Leader of Iran. And I also wanted to share with you a couple of details when it comes to Donald Trump and what he thinks about Turkey and its actions in Syria, and what his position is when it comes to the United States foreign policy and the deployment of further troops. Because don't forget, Donald Trump withdrew troops previously from Syria, and he had some interesting things to say when it comes to the situation in Syria. However, I'm going to start off with the prisoner exchange. So there's an evolving hostage deal. They're saying in Israel, the ultimate goal and the stuck points that have been resolved. This is the demand from Hamas. This was one title in the Israeli newspaper, Ynet, in which they said that many of the details, many of the niggling points between Israel and Hamas have now been resolved. However, Israel, and again, that's not something unusual, is trying to extract as much as possible when it comes to the ceasefire and how many people it will get in the first knock of prisoner exchange. Now, according to the reports, we are looking at a phases ceasefire with phases. So we will have an initial phase, then a second phase, then a third phase. However, many people in Israel are calling for a full ceasefire agreement with everyone being released. Having phases would save Israel face when it comes to withdrawal. It would take away some of the pressure, scrutiny, and criticism when it comes to the people in the government and the population in Israel, or parts of the population who want an expansion of this war. But others, especially those who have relatives inside of Gaza who are prisoners of war, well, no, they're saying we need to get it resolved all at once, because we can't delay people remaining there, because in the past year, the more they remained there, the more they died. Hamas knows that very well, and despite the fact that Israel tried to apply so much damage and destruction inside of Gaza for political purposes against the Palestinians, even today they targeted the last functioning ICU in Kamal Udwan Hospital. These people, their barbarism has no boundaries. Their depravity has no boundaries in what they've committed and are still committing inside of Gaza. Yet despite all of that, the Palestinian people in Gaza showed resilience, and the Palestinian resistance did not give up, and they are still fighting them, and they are still targeting them, even in Jabalia. Today we had more activities from the Palestinian resistance, like with every day in North Gaza, in Jabalia, the area that is most hardly hit. It has been completely carpet bombed. There is hardly any building at all over the ground now. Most of them have been turned to rubble. But despite all of that, the Palestinian resistance did not give up. Neither did the Palestinian people, especially those who decided to remain in North Gaza despite all of these disasters. So, from an Israeli perspective, the society is split, but the government appears to be going down the route of having a multi-phased ceasefire, most likely 3. 3 phases, but now Israel's trying to extract as much as possible when it comes to the prisoners in Gaza, saying Hamas, look, release a bit more in the first knock. But Hamas, they're not doing that. They're saying, no, we decided small numbers, but the remaining ones will be left for later on. And the cost, now that's the cost here. The cost is looking to be extremely, extremely heavy for Israel when it comes to the prisoners. And from what we're looking, it looks like every Palestinian prisoner will be released. And the Palestinian resistance is likely to completely empty the prisons inside of the genocide state from all Palestinian prisoners, including ones who have been not only red lines, but black lines when it comes to Israel. It's these people here. First one on the right is Ahmad Sadat. Ahmad Sadat is the Secretary General of the PFLP. This man has been imprisoned for a very long time, and he is very highly popular, especially with the Palestinian left, political left. The man in the middle is Marwan Barghouthi. Marwan Barghouthi is the main secretary of the Fatah movement in the West Bank, and he has the biggest popularity in the Fatah movement. He's a big challenge for Mahmoud Abbas, the head of the PA. He was known previously to support the resistance heavily. Also, he's been in prison for many years now, and this is the most dangerous one, although there are more other dangerous ones as well. But this man is called Abdullah al-Barghouthi. Abdullah al-Barghouthi is the successor of Yahya Ayyash, a man who used to be a nightmare for Israel, a man who the previous president of the Prime Minister of Israel, Yitzhak Rabin, was worried that he would be in the Israeli Knesset at one point without them knowing. This man is his successor. He conducted many operations inside of Israel, and he's serving the longest sentence inside of Israel, over 5,600 years, probably the longest prison sentence in history. So we're talking about people, main key Palestinian political figures and very, very serious figures from the Palestinian armed resistance. Apart from Marwan Barghouthi, there's a couple of other ones who are, from an Israeli perspective, used to be considered red lines and even black lines, like I said. And the question is regarding them is, will they be released to outside of Palestine? So Israel is insisting that they would be released to either Turkey or Qatar or Iran even, and that's something that happened previously in previous prisoner exchanges. But the fact that there's talk in Israel, in Israeli media, this has been published in Israeli media, legitimizing the release of these people, you can establish that they are trying to shape the public opinion to accept the fact that these people will be released. The other day they said the number of Palestinian resistance that would be released might seem not possible to digest. It would be an inconceivable number, something that we cannot really comprehend. And what are the numbers that they can't comprehend? You're talking about massive numbers. And if we would take into consideration, well, all of the Palestinian prisoners, if that would happen, we're talking about over 10,000. That's if Israel would also release the ones who have been, well, kidnapped temporarily by Israel in the past year, in the past 14 months, following the Al-Aqsa flood. Okay. All of that indicates that there are indeed talks, there are advanced stages, there are more criticisms coming from the people who object to ceasefire. Someone like Smotrich is now saying, oh no, don't give Hamas the rescue rope now, right? They're in a tough position and we need to continue a no deal. On the opposite side, people are saying, well, no, we need to have a deal, but not a stage deal, an all-out deal, all at once. Let's cut it once and for all. We've had many people being killed by our forces inside of Gaza. The families of the Israeli prisoners of war in Gaza always blame Netanyahu that he is killing, which indeed he is, their family members inside of Gaza, and they want to end it once and for all. However, Netanyahu clearly has a plan when it comes to the phases. And if the deal goes ahead, it looks like we will be talking about phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3, with the prisoners being released in multiple stages. And Hamas would not give Israel any names of the Israeli prisoners who would be released up until one day before their release. Hamas will not be giving any information to Israel. That's something that Israel tried to push hard to at least get a list of the names of those who would be released. But now, again, they're confirming that we did not really get a confirmation. Hamas said they will be giving the names of those who will be released either as bodies or as living people one day before. And the initial phase would be 60 days. Other reports said 42, but the majority of the reports said 60 days. That would be the first phase of the war. But most likely, if we go into the first phase, that means this time we're going on to a complete ceasefire that would eventually end the war, at least from a perspective of the deal itself and the guarantors and everyone involved. So that's when it comes to the ceasefire. Things are getting close. Clearly, Israel in their media, much of their media is full of, legitimization and public opinion shaping to, prepare the people to accept something that was previously unacceptable. And all of that indicates that, the Palestinian side did not submit despite all of the destruction and genocide, and that it's Israel giving in the concessions to the Palestinian resistance because of how hard they were hit inside of Gaza and how much they suffered when it comes to their military and their economy and, their global impact, the global impact that had following the Al-Aqsa flood to this day on many levels when it comes to Israel. But primarily when it comes to this, the fact that the Palestinian resistance is still hitting them really hard inside of Gaza, targeting their genocide troops and their vehicles and their bases inside of Gaza, that they are trying to sell the Israeli public, that they are somehow safe, like the Netzarim line that they were talking about. That's when it comes to the ceasefire. The second thing that I wanted to talk to you about is Iran. Iran, we're pending a true promise 3, right? Iran said we will respond. We will respond heavily. It will be a massive blow, a blow bigger than true promise 1 and 2. But they've been quiet after there was a ceasefire in Lebanon. Now, it appears to be that Iran used its lack of response as leverage to the ceasefire that happened in Lebanon and the ceasefire that we could be seeing in Gaza soon. And if there is indeed a ceasefire in Gaza, that would mean, there's 2 ceasefires happening, alongside certain guarantees for the future with the mediators and guaranteeing countries, basically. That would mean the Iranian delay was successful this time. Now, many people blamed Iran previously that they were not successful in their delay because Israel, they started to attack more inside of Iran. They targeted the Hezbollah Secretary General. They assassinated senior figures in the Lebanese resistance. And that caused a lot of problems. However, True Promise 2 did come under President Pezeshkian, who many people are doubting as well. And it was a massive blow. It was the biggest missile blow in terms of effect in Israel's history. That was undeniable. And it was over 90% successful, with missiles destroying genocide bases. But now Iran is talking again. So we had a report from the military response is definite. That's according to the Admiral Ali Fadawi. He's saying True Promise 3 operation will take place in revenge for the Israeli attack that took the lives of 4 Iranian servicemen on October 26th. There were other reports that another Iranian from the Iranian army was killed, by the way, which makes the total 5. He said that the attack, the operation, will certainly occur at the definite time and in appropriate circumstances. They will choose the time, they will choose the circumstances. Okay, why are they talking about True Promise 3 all of a sudden? Is that linked to the prospect of reaching a ceasefire in Gaza? Don't forget that the Americans promised the Iranians, after the assassination of the martyr Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran, that don't attack Israel now, a ceasefire is just 1 week away. Meaning, well, the Iranian response is indeed linked to the ceasefire attempts. And if it failed before and it succeeds now, that means the delay in response coming from Iran would have succeeded in bringing about a ceasefire, at least when it comes to the knowledge of the Zionists that a response is coming. Everyone in Israel was petrified when Israel carried out, especially True Promise 2. It was a massive blow. Netanyahu was seen shaking at the time. Everyone was petrified. And that's how they understand. That's how Israel understands the language of force. And they don't want to face that again from Iran, because Iran petrified them and it created a new equation. So if Iran would be able to have leverage with this delay to get us to a ceasefire in Gaza, that would be something positive, because there is a ceasefire in Lebanon, a fragile ceasefire, mind you. Israel is still conducting certain attacks, but it's withdrawing at the end of the day. And people need to understand Israel does these things to psychologically manipulate the people, to tell them that, look, we're saying ceasefire, but there is no real ceasefire, so that everyone can think, well, Israel is getting away with everything. Fact of the matter is, we don't have the levels of attacks we've had before. Israel is still withdrawing from Lebanon. And if the argument is, well, Israel is getting a breathing time to rearm and to prepare itself, well, that the same argument applies to the Lebanese resistance, and the same argument will apply to the Palestinian side. And people need to factor in the suffering of the people at the end of the day. People do need ceasefires and people do need a relief, especially when we're talking about the biggest genocide in the 21st century, committed by the most depraved people on earth, who have committed crimes that even Satan himself is ashamed of. So Iran would succeed if they would lead us to a ceasefire, if that delay would lead us to a ceasefire in Gaza. And that could be why they've been delaying it so far. And that could be why they're warning again, because they're reminding Israel, don't try and extract too much in the final phases of the ceasefire, because we have a pending response. And if you do not have a ceasefire that was most likely guaranteed within parameters agreed upon by Hezbollah and Israel within 2 months of the beginning of the ceasefire in Lebanon, there must be a ceasefire in Gaza, and we're still in that time frame, then Iran will be annihilating Israel. Now he's reminding them, we will attack you. We will attack you. So what will happen if, well, we do have a ceasefire? Okay, if we do have a ceasefire, Iran would have, and again, that's not giving Iran excuses, by the way, that's just reading what's happening. Iran would have reason to delay it further. Why? Because they would need to see how much it's implemented. That's number one. Number two, they would be or could be carrying out an attack regardless of the ceasefire. Why? Because in Iran's previous attacks, they have been in relation to something with Iran, something primarily with Iran. With the first attack in April, it was the attack on the consulate in Syria. With the attack in October, it's for a targeting in Tehran. Now, Iran also added, when they carried out the operation, it's as revenge for or reaction to Israel attacking in Tehran and the assassination of course, Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran, and then the Secretary General of Hezbollah, Said Hassan Nasrallah, and also the people of Gaza. They said all of that, but it was an attack on Iran. Now they do have that too, regardless of anything that happens in Gaza or in Lebanon, because from an Iranian perspective, to protect Iranian sovereignty, Iranian deterrence, and Iranian dignity, they have to respond to the genocide state. And if they do respond, they need to make it a severe response. Israel does not understand anything but force. And Iran would have to make it a very significant response. They can't just like say, oh, look, a couple of missiles here. They need to actually implement something really big so that they can have the deterrence back and keep the equation as it was after their second attack. Because don't forget, we're talking about setting a precedent here. Israel is trying to set a precedent with everything that they do. We can attack, but we won't be attacked. We can kill you, you can't kill us. We can attack everywhere, no one can attack us. All of that has been completely demolished in the past 14 months. Israel has been attacked from multiple parts, from Gaza, from Lebanon. It has been attacked from Yemen, from Iraq, and from Iran. And they have been attacked heavily. And they have become the punching bag of the region. No one is intimidated by them. And because no one is intimidated by them, and because they're cowards, and because they're failing miserably on the ground, they resort to psychologically instilling fear in people that no, we will get our way, we will break ceasefires, we will occupy more territories in Syria, and we will threaten the whole world. And this is the new era of Israel. A barking dog, a barking little dog that has no intimidation over the people of the region. That is the state of Israel right now. And it wasn't only the IRGC, also the Supreme Leader himself. He said Israel will be eradicated. Israel will be eradicated. These people are full of faith that Israel is just a cancerous tumor that needs to be removed. And the thing with the Iranians that is very unique to the Iranians is the fact that these people talk the talk and walk the walk. They say it as it is when it comes to the genocide state, and they act upon it. And judging by the previous attacks that they landed on Israel, especially with True Promise 2, they are indeed serious about what they're talking about. But they're also very calculated and very strategic in their thinking, and also consider the political objectives they want to achieve through their attacks, and consider the fact that they can achieve these political objectives that are detrimental not only for Iran but also other people in the region, well, without attacking too. This is the thinking of Iran. Iran is a very strategic player, and all of their moves are very calculated. And again, judging by what they've said so far, no, we will be seeing an attack from Iran at one point. However, not before they try and exhaust everything when it comes to their demands in the region and the political objectives while reaching a ceasefire and doing everything. And the final thing that I want to talk to you about is the comment that came from Donald Trump regarding Syria. Now, I've been talking about a feud that's been happening between the United States and Turkey. Many people would say, oh no, of course not. How can this happen? Turkey and US are allies. Both of them are NATO. And again, I will repeat, things can be different between countries who are members of one organization. In Syria now, we have de facto fighting between Turkish-backed forces and US-backed forces. And both the United States and Turkey are acting inside of Syria to support the side that they want to win in the battle. But what does Donald Trump have to say? Because what Donald Trump has to say is very important, because this man is going to be the next United States president. And he's a man who previously withdrew troops from Syria. And he's been talking about ending the wars. So here's what he said, and I'll share that with you in relation to Turkey and Syria.
Yes. Mr. President, can I ask you a question about the drones?
Pulling them when you get into office, or will you?
Well, you know, we had 5,000 troops along the border, and I asked a couple of generals, so we have an army of 250,000 in Syria, and you had an army of 400,000. They have many more people than that. Turkey is a major force, by the way, and Erdogan is somebody I got along with great, but he has a major military force, and his has not been worn out with war. It hasn't been worn out with all of the other things. I mean, he's built a very strong, powerful army. And so we have 5,000 soldiers in between a 5 million person army and a 250,000 person army. And I asked the general, what do you think of that situation? He said, they'll be wiped out immediately. And I moved them out and I took a lot of heat. And you know what happened? Nothing. I saved a lot of lives. Now we have 900. They put some back, but 900, if you're talking about two, now one of the sides has been essentially wiped out, but nobody knows who the other side is. But I do. You know who it is? Turkey. Okay? Turkey's the one behind it. He's a very smart guy. They've wanted it for thousands of years, and he got it. And those people that went in are controlled by Turkey. And that's okay. It's another way to fight. But no, I don't think that I want to have our soldiers killed. But I don't think that will happen now anyway, because the one side's been decimated. Mr. President, I want to ask you a question about the drones.
Are you concerned about more unrest in that region, or do you think it will calm?
Well, nobody knows what the final outcome is going to be in the region. You know, nobody knows who really the final. I believe it's Turkey, and I think Turkey is very smart. He's a very smart guy, and he's very tough. But Turkey did an unfriendly takeover without a lot of lives being lost. I can say that Assad was a butcher. What he did to children. You remember I attacked him with the 58 missiles, unbelievable missiles coming from ships 700 miles away, and every one of them hit their target. But I did that. That was the red line in the sand. Obama drew it, and then he refused to honor what he did. He said, if anybody goes across the red line, and Assad killed many more children after that, and Obama did nothing, but I did. I hit him with a lot of missiles. In fact, President Xi was sitting here the night he was in that dining room having chocolate cake. Remember the famous chocolate cake? But and that's when I explained what we were doing as the missiles were shot. And it was amazing as to precision, because every one of those missiles hit its target from a long distance away. Had President Obama...
I mean, that was the main part that I wanted to share with you, especially in relation to Turkey and the fact that Donald Trump doesn't appear to be very excited or moved by the prospect of adding any more forces in the region, despite the fact that the United States have had forces inside of Syria, well, their own forces, and then forces supporting the SDF. Under any excuse, really, they would have the excuse of Bashar al-Assad. Now they would have the excuse of ISIS. Under any excuse, they can have certain presence inside of Syria. But the fact that Donald Trump is saying that, and the fact that he was saying that it's an unfriendly move by Turkey, all of these things indicate that, well, there are differences in the view on Syria when it comes to the United States and Turkey. Like other countries inside of NATO had different views on an individual basis when it comes to Ukraine. These things happen, and people need to understand that. And judging by what the tone is coming from Donald Trump, it does not look like, at least from the statements, that he will be increasing or escalating further when it comes to Turkey. The things that we have been seeing in the past few days in Turkey is that more SDF-controlled territories in northeast Syria that are backed by the United States are now being liberated by the Syrian National Army, backed by Turkish forces, Turkish Air Force and Turkish weapons, Turkish intelligence. And there are internal revolts in areas that are controlled by the SDF, coming from the Kurdish population and the Arab population inside the region, to, that's it, live under one country, one government in the form of Syria, without the need to rely on any external force and without serving any foreign agendas apart from those who are for Syria. And these were the main things that I wanted to talk to you about in this video. As usual, I hope I shed some light as to what's happening, and I will see you soon in the next video. Peace, everyone.